Commander Zix-471 of the Vorthak Coalition stared at the holographic display with 6 of his compound eyes, while the remaining 2 monitored the tactical readouts. The crimson warning lights bathed the bridge of their flagship in an ominous glow as the Devourer fleet approached their outer perimeter. "Sir," chittered Communications Officer Blep 229, her mandibles clicking nervously. "The Devourer Armada has breached Sector 7. Our defense platforms are falling like autumn leaves on Vorthak Prime." Zix-471's antennae drooped. The Devourers were a plague upon the galaxy, a hive-minded species that consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing but barren worlds in their wake. The Coalition had held them back for 3 cycles, but their numbers seemed infinite. "Have we received any response to our distress beacon?" Zix-471 asked, though he already knew the answer. The major galactic powers had either fallen to the Devourers or retreated to their core worlds, leaving smaller civilizations like the Vorthak to face extinction alone. "Actually, sir," Blep 229's voice carried a note of confusion, "we have received 1 response, from a species calling themselves humans. They claim to be from a planet called Earth, located in what they call the Sol system." Zix-471's encyclopedic memory, enhanced by neural implants, searched for any reference to this species. Nothing. "Humans? I've never heard of them. What is their military classification?" "That's unclear, sir. They haven't provided standard military specifications. Instead, they sent something called a cultural exchange package and asked if we needed help with logistics, morale, or pest control." Before Zix-471 could respond, the tactical display lit up with new contacts. 12 vessels had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, but these weren't like any ships in the Coalition database. They appeared to be a bizarre mix of angular military design and commercial architecture. "Sir, the human fleet is requesting permission to dock with our stations. They say they brought supplies and expertise." Zix-471 felt a mixture of desperation and bewilderment. "Grant them permission. We have nothing left to lose." Admiral Sarah Chen stepped off the boarding ramp of the UES Prosperity and immediately noticed the defeated posture of the alien delegation waiting for her. The insectoid beings before her radiated exhaustion and despair, their colorful exoskeletons dulled by stress. "Commander Zix-471, I presume?" Sarah extended her hand in the universal human gesture of greeting. When the alien looked confused, she simply nodded respectfully. "I'm Admiral Chen, commanding the Sol System Relief Fleet. We got your distress call." "Admiral," Zix-471's translator rendered his clicking speech into accented English. "I must ask, what exactly is a relief fleet? Our databases show no record of human military capabilities." Sarah grinned. "That's because we don't really do military the way most species do. We do logistics. Follow me, Commander. Let me show you what we brought." As they walked through the docking bay, Zix-471's eyes widened. The human vessels were indeed warships, but they were unlike anything he'd ever seen. Massive cargo bays had been converted into what appeared to be marketplaces. "This is the Mumbai Express," Sarah explained, gesturing to a kilometer-long vessel whose hull was painted in bright, welcoming colors. "Mobile Bazaar and Cultural Center. Next to her is the Texas Longhorn, mobile feast hall and morale operations. And those sleek ones? The Shenlong Battlecruisers, they handle the pest control side of things." "I don't understand," Zix-471 admitted. "How does a bazaar help us fight the Devourers?" Sarah's grin widened. "Commander, in human history, we learned that armies march on their stomachs, trade routes win wars, and morale is the most powerful weapon in any arsenal. You've been fighting the Devourers like they're an enemy. We're going to fight them like they're a customer service problem." Within 6 hours, the human fleet had transformed the Vorthak defensive positions. The Mumbai Express had deployed thousands of merchants, engineers, and cultural specialists throughout the Coalition fleet. Suddenly, Vorthak warriors who had been surviving on nutrient paste were eating authentic pasta, tandoori protein, and something called barbecue that made their taste receptors sing. The Texas Longhorn had established what humans called morale stations. Entertainment centers were exhausted alien crew. Members could experience human music, art, and something called comedy. Zix-471 watched in amazement as his own troops, who had been on the verge of despair, began laughing at human stand-up comedians. But it was the engineering marvels that truly astounded him. Human technicians swarmed over coalition ships, installing something they called coffee makers and comfort upgrades. Apparently, humans had discovered that small creature comforts could improve fighting efficiency by up to 300%. "Sir," Blep 229 reported, her voice filled with wonder. "Fleet-wide morale indicators are showing numbers we've never recorded. Our pilots are requesting extended shifts. They say they want to show the humans what Vorthak courage looks like." Then the Devourers arrived. The hive mind fleet poured into the system like a dark tide, thousands of bioships designed for one purpose: consumption. Their strategy had never failed: overwhelm, devour, expand. But humans, Zix 471 realized, had never learned to fight conventionally. The Shenlong Battlecruisers didn't engage the Devourer fleet head-on. Instead, they deployed what Admiral Chen called the full-court press. The human ships began broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously: music, comedy shows, cooking demonstrations, and philosophical debates. The Devourer hive mind, which had evolved to process single-focused thoughts of consumption, suddenly found itself bombarded with the chaotic, creative, contradictory cacophony of human culture. Their bioships began to wobble in formation as the hive mind struggled to process thousands of simultaneous inputs. "What are they doing?" Zix 471 demanded. "Information warfare," Sarah replied calmly. "Turns out hive minds are really bad at processing cultural diversity. We're giving them a full dose of humanity's greatest weapon: our inability to agree on anything." While the Devourers floundered in confusion, the Mumbai Express deployed its merchant marines, humans who treated war like an optimization problem. They began selling supplies to the coalition fleet at cost, setting up trade routes that turned the defensive positions into profit centers, and somehow convinced 3 Devourer ships to defect in exchange for authentic Earth cuisine. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was a cultural conversion event. The Devourers, faced with the incomprehensible chaos of human civilization, began to fracture. Individual bioships started broadcasting requests for more of that jazz music and pizza delivery. 3 days later, Commander Zix 471 stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching human merchants negotiate trade agreements with reformed Devourer collectives. The crisis was over, but more than that, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. "Admiral Chen," he said as the human commander joined him, "I must ask, how did your species develop such unique military doctrine?" Sarah chuckled, sipping from a cup of something she called chai that had become surprisingly popular among the Vorthak crew. "Commander, humans didn't conquer the galaxy because we were the strongest or the smartest. We conquered it because we were the weirdest. And when you're weird enough, everything else just seems to work itself out." She gestured to the bustling activity outside: human merchants setting up permanent trade stations, Vorthak engineers learning to make coffee, and former Devourer bioships being converted into food trucks. "Besides," Sarah added with a wink, "there's no problem in the universe that can't be solved with the right combination of good food, fair trade, and overwhelming firepower. We just prefer to lead with the first two." As Zix 471 watched a group of young Vorthak learning to play something called cricket from enthusiastic human instructors, he realized that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity hadn't just saved them from the Devourers. They had saved them from the idea that survival had to mean merely surviving, and somehow that made all the difference.